Hello, Agile friends. My name is Wes White, and I'll be hosting this session in the 2026 Global Agile Summit in the Agile and Construction track. I've had the pleasure of working with both of our next guests, and they both key figures to my own personal Agile journey. From Scrum Master to CEO, Jim Damato can do it all. Jim uses a strong background in transforming hardware and biopharma teams to diagnose challenges, deliver operational excellence, and improve results. Joining Jim is the ever-talented Ebele Okochar. With a strong agile background across a multitude of industries, Ebele helps teams deliver what matters. Please welcome Jim and Ebele.
Wes, thank you. Good to be here.
Thanks, Wes.
Today's topic will cover a topic that is near to my heart, industrialization driven development. But please don't forget to check out the sessions in the Global Agile Summit 2026 in the Agile and Construction track at globalagilesummit.com. But now let's talk about industrialization driven development. Hey, Jim and Abele, before we get started talking about the actual IDD, as I like to call it, to shorten it, and so I don't butcher it all the time, I would
Yeah.
like to kind of set the stage a little bit. So I know when we first started working together, we were in the waterfall methodology. Could you kind of give me an idea on how you approach or structure something slightly differently than where it's hardware based instead of a software digital based?
Yeah, sure, Wes. So, Abele, I'll take the first crack at this. Um, you know, Wes, we sort of recognize that every organization is going to work in its own way. Whether it's waterfall or stage gates or agile or you know, any maybe you're operating in a lean environment, scaled agile environment, any sort of an environment. Um, there's sort of a few key things that we try to advocate for to sort of get past some of the inertia, the inertia and resistance. Um, if we sort of break something like this down to its sort of first principles, it matters less what sort of a framework you're using and more about the things you're trying to achieve. And one of the things I like to sort of anchor on is that when you work with an organization that might be traditionally waterfall, don't necessarily argue so much about the waterfall. Talk about the things that are really important, like faster cycles of feedback, like smaller pieces of work. And if you can find ways to solve for those two things, it sort of matters less what framework or approach you're using and more about those results. Because if you get faster cycles of feedback on smaller pieces of work, you're probably doing something right.
So to Jim's point, let's remember that the hardware world is a bit different because we're talking about physical products. So the setting is different from what you get in the regular software world. The setting here, we're talking about very specialized skill sets, talking about teams that are set in deep functional teams. So, in James' point, when he said faster cycles of feedback, moving from one function to the next function to the next function, what we really wanted to do was how do we create faster cycles of feedback in this world that is hardware? How do we customize to suit this world of hardware manufacturing?
Very cool. So you touched on the teams a little bit. Is there a difference in the way you structure teams from a hardware based kind of like what we had done or a purely digital or software based?
So I would say that there is really no difference because we create cross-functional teams. So the fact that they are cross-functional is basic. However, I need to call out a major barrier. In the software world, a full stack developer, can typically function around everywhere.